Burnham's to the bridge. Black alert.
Welcome to the Black Alert Podcast, your melanated reference for all things Star Trek across all 4 quadrants. Today, the Bridge crew, Grace, Travis, Tia, and I are excited to welcome David Ajala, who plays the character Cleveland Booker to the show.
Hi, David.
Hey, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, thank you.
I recognize that
Good to
face.
see y'all.
There we go.
Right, so we have Tia.
Hi.
Hey, Tia. We have Shaniqua.
That's me.
We have Travis.
Yes, sir.
And last but definitely not least, thank you, Lord, for the amazing grace. That's what's up.
Tia, clip that and send it to me, please.
Yes, I'll have that to you by tomorrow, okay?
See, that's
Welcome.
teamwork right there.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Tia, you're on my ship. You're in my ship.
Yep. We
That's
thought
dope.
we'd like to change it up, and we are super big fans of Book. I think we've talked about Book in every episode we've done so far. Because we're just huge fans.
Oh, that's really sweet. Thank you. That's really awesome. That's really nice to hear.
We have a few questions. Shaniqua, do you want to start us off?
So last week we were fortunate to have Wilson Cruz on our podcast as well. Little name drop right there.
Mr. Cruz.
And one of the things that he said that really stuck out to me, as well as to the rest of the podcast, was there is strength in vulnerability. And Book is very passionate about his love for Burnham and his love for Grudge the cat. And how do you think that Book's example can relate to or influence the Black man experience?
That's a great question. Well, I think what is really cool about this character, and one of the reasons why I said yes to joining the franchise, was because of this character. I think the world is ready to see the various different beautiful versions of the Black man. It's long overdue. I think we need to see it more because it's vulnerable, it's passionate, it's exquisite, it's messy, it's honest, it's truthful. It's all those things. And the reason why I love playing the character of Book is because he's able to freely be all those things without being policed for it and without having to, I'm trying to find the right word to explain this. He doesn't have to second guess himself. He can walk into any room and know that he has something to offer.
Mm-hmm.
I love that about that character.
That's a great question. That's a great answer. I'm next. As
Amazing Grace.
the resident Nigerian on the podcast, I have to
Come
say,
on.
more Nigerians in
Niger.
space.
Okay.
I'm into it. So my question, a little bit lighter, is it like, as a first generation Nigerian, I know how important names are and how meaningful a name can be, your naming ceremony, and how important that is for a new person, a new thing, a new child. In that vein, what is the name of Booker's ship? Booker's ship is only ever referred to as Booker ship, Mr. Booker ship, my ship.
Mm-hmm.
And if Booker ship doesn't have a name, what would you name Booker ship and why?
That is a great question. I would probably call Booker ship Talawa. It's a Swahili word. It means small but mighty. And I put that in the context of how Book's ship looks next to the USS Discovery. So I would call it Talawa. Small but mighty.
Talawa. Okay.
You know that's what we're going to call it from now on, right?
That's literally it.
That's
I don't
cool.
care if they give it another name. That's what we're going to call
If it never
Yeah.
gets
Done
named,
deal.
that's what it's called now.
That's
That is
what it is.
canon
From here on
now.
out, the Black Alert podcast name for Book ship, and that's it.
Talawa.
That's awesome.
One of the things that we are most interested in at the Black Alert podcast is bringing a multifaceted Black perspective to this massive fandom. And as you pointed out, Blackness is varied in its form and expression and can be a unique and rich lens through which to examine Star Trek and the world at large. And so we spend a lot of time talking about Captains Burnham and Cisco and Book. So as you continue on as part of this franchise, what do you hope to be the lasting legacy of Book that us nerds can examine, re-examine, and discuss?
Wow, that's a big question. It feels like this is going to be one of the most important answers I give today.
Take your time. We're ready.
I'm so sorry. I do science fiction as
No,
a
it's
study,
great.
as an
Why are you
academic study.
apologizing?
So.
It's awesome. It's awesome. I need to raise my game. You're setting the bar standard. I need to rise to it. In terms of a lasting legacy, there's something about Cleveland Booker, which I find is very personal to me, and it's to find a purpose bigger than yourself to pursue. Because if you rely on yourself, it's easy to let yourself down. But if there are other people that you know, or who are strangers or sentient beings, if your purpose is aligned with their safety and their well-being, it makes it harder to give up. And my kind of, antidote would be that it's never too late to reinvent yourself to find a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what Cleveland Booker did.
You're right. That's right. Because it's one of the things we've noticed about this past season is the characters sort of redefining themselves in a way. And I think that's the term that we used last week, the redefinition of self. And that's what this season is putting forth, moving forward as well, too. So, yeah, thank you.
Pleasure.
When Wilson was on, I brought you up, and we were talking about how you and Doug and he been kind of expanding the definition of action hero. Because when I see Book, right, I think Book's Han Solo, if Han Solo had an emotional IQ, right? If he kind of understood people. And then, I look back at last season, and Anson and Ethan kind of did the same thing, but not to the same degree that I think you and Wilson are doing this year. So, because what I'm seeing is that, you guys are more supportive and more, vulnerable to refer back to what Shanika was saying earlier, than your Captain Kirk characters from back in the day. So talk to me a little bit about that. How does that work for you, and what do you see as the future of Book?
That was my washing machine, tumble dryer. It was just saying big up and saying hello to you guys. Okay, thank you.
It's one of the .23s.
Right. So I missed the end of. Give me the last little bit.
I was just asking you to kind of expand a little bit about that on that from your current standpoint and into the future of your character. How do you see yourself expanding that definition of action hero?
We have a romanticized version of what an action hero is. And it's that individual that is very physical, fights, wins physically, and then should win in terms of the narration of the story. One thing that was very important, a conversation I had with the producers on the show, and I also had the same conversation with our stunt captains, is I let it be known that when we're working on our choreography and the way Book fights and the way, this guy's story is told, it's really important that we believe that this guy is a human who has superhero courage, because he needs to be relatable. Because I think the best superpower we all have is to be courageous, in the face of adversity. Mm-hmm. So building that, I think it's going to be very important that you see someone who is not perfect, but who strives greatly towards following his moral compass and being courageous. I think that's really important. And I think that will tap into the humanity, not just of the character, but of the audience members watching.
Great, thank you.
Besides being Trekkies, a couple of us are also Whovians.
I love the way you said that, just so conspiratorial.
And you were featured in 11's run in the episode Beasts Below, which means you are now a part of two of the biggest sci-fi series in history. That's pretty amazing.
Oh, wow.
How does that feel, being a Black actor?
So here's the thing. On Twitter a few weeks ago, because every now and then I like to go on Twitter and just respond to messages because I haven't actually seen season 3. We filmed it. It's been a wonderful experience. I haven't watched any of the episodes. I've only watched episode 1. So I get to enjoy it all through. Yeah, literally. I've only seen episode 1. So I get to enjoy it all through the likes of yourselves and then people online. So I get to enjoy the experience vicariously through fans of the show. And I remember one gent posted on his Twitter feed, he said, it's Thanksgiving in America. It feels a bit odd because I don't have my full family with me. And that evening, I watched Star Trek Discovery. And I saw a scene where Michael Burnham and Cleveland Booker were holding each other. And let me try and remember the lines. Cleveland Booker says, you feel like home to Michael Burnham. And Michael Burnham says, and so do you. And then the guy went on to say that he never knew how much he needed to see that black love in that moment. And it made him feel whole. Like, that's amazing. So touching, so wonderful. So when we're talking about myself, an actor, being a black actor, and, you know, navigating my way through the industry and working in different mediums, I feel proud to be a reminder for people that look like me that it's possible. And our story counts and our story matters. That's everything for me.
I agree, David, because being a nerd and growing up nerdy, it's a relief when you see people that look like you in the shows that you hold so dear to your heart.
Absolutely. It's so important. It really is. I love being chocolate brown and telling this story as Cleveland Booker, you know, and as I'm walking and touching things, I'm like, oh man, my bad, I messed it up. I left a bit of chocolate there. I put a bit of chocolate there. Oh, there's a bit of chocolate there. You know, Sneaker, we may have to do that take again because during that kiss, I left a lot of chocolate on your face. You know, I think it's important that we see ourselves celebrated on the screen. And when I say ourselves, I'm speaking as a black guy, and I'm speaking as on the behalf of every different race under the rainbow of humanity. You need to see yourself reflected, and not just race, your identity, your sexual orientation, anything that you identify with that is ingrained in your being should be reflected in the world. I think it's empowering and it's healing.
I absolutely agree. And it's very important for me personally to see Booker and Michael's characters together and in love, not just in sci-fi, but just in media in general, because it's not often that you see a dark-skinned man and a dark-skinned woman together and happy while they're, you know, fighting the universe and in love. And it's very, very beautiful to me. And I think that's probably my favorite thing about all of season 3, watching that story arc, watching the relationship between Booker and Michael develop from, I don't know who you are, you're this weird girl in a suit who hit my ship and made me crash, to you know, him standing over her shoulder, looking at her proudly while she sits in the captain's chair. I think those are very, very beautiful bookends to the season.
That's beautiful. Thank you. That really warms my heart to hear that. It's really cool. I think I understand more and more the importance of seeing Black love, and just Black love being able to have the room to just be. I think that's special. And I think the producers knew exactly what they were doing when they navigated Cleveland Booker's story and Michael Burnham's story. Because I'm dark chocolate with grizzle. Like there's nothing pretty about me. So when they pitched this idea of the show, this character for the show, I was thinking, this is fresh. We could get in trouble for this, but I'm down for it. You know, I love it. It's exciting.
Now, I know I just went off on a tangent, but my next actual question is, I know people pour a lot of themselves into their characters. It's what makes characters feel more real and more relatable. But not a lot of people talk about the differences, and a lot of people, the fans especially, conflate the actor with the character. So how are you different from Booker?
That's a good question. How am I different? I think Cleveland Booker, one thing I really admire about him is his ability to read characters and to read people, and his sensibilities. His emotional intelligence, I find, is very impressive. And it makes sense because this is someone who can communicate with different species. So it just means he's just more in tune with the world around him. And I would like to think that hopefully I will be able to adapt or adopt the same kind of outlook on life and sensibilities somehow. I think it makes for a much more joyful experience on this earth, the more connected you are with nature. This is going to sound weird, but I'm going to put it out there. I think Cleveland Booker has a certain kind of swagger, which I find very attractive. And his swagger, it doesn't come from trying to be cool or trying to be anything. He's just very openly comfortable being himself. I think that's really dope.
Like you are not the only one who thinks that. Not even on this podcast, you are not the only one who thinks that.
With the swagger.
Y'all love Booker very much, and Booker's swagger, Booker's clothes, Booker's entire mentality. We're all very big fans.
That's wonderful.
Well, I'm going to change it up a bit. I think your answer to my last question was pretty awesome. So I'm just going to follow up with something like super fun. So we looked through your IMDb credits and we noticed that you've been in a lot of science fiction. You did a turn on Supergirl. So bringing all of that together, if you could run your own Star Trek series, what would it be about?
Wow. If I could create my own Star Trek series, what would it be about?
I think you stumped him, Tia.
Oh.
I think it's 50 years. Look, Star Trek has some interesting things. So if you just said, I want to go to an alternate universe where the Vulcans lead everything, I'm like, okay, yeah, cool.
No, this is. I'm really going to think about this. It's a good one. Every character is a twin, and then when you get to the age of 16, you can choose to separate from your twin, and you explore different planets.
I'm gonna steal this.
Can you imagine some of the characters that this would be so interesting? Like this
And
would be
you could be twins together. Like, would you be like twins? Would you have two separate ships? Would you just co-pilot the same ship? There are so many possibilities.
Right. Just putting it out there. I didn't want to give too much information. I didn't want to spoil it. I wanted your imagination to just run wild a little bit, like mine.
We have enough collective Star Trek knowledge between us all that we could work with this. We could make
And we could brainstorm it. Like we'll work it out. Like it's so much more than like I thought you were just gonna say Nigerians in space. That is my Star Trek. Nigerians in space, and I would watch that show because, like, the the replicator has 18 million different styles of jollof, and you just order them by number. I thought that was gonna be the show.
See, that's my kind of replicator. We need to get that onto our ship. I'm still trying to sort out some of the things on Book's ship, like the music, for example. I pitched this idea of having a disco ball in the middle of the ship, and then every time Book walks onto a ship, you hear the soundtrack of Shaft playing in the background. I'm still,
I mean, licensing, but sure, yeah.
He's a bad mother. Shut your mouth.
Shut
Yes,
your
I
mouth.
love it. I love it.
They were saying less is more, but I was thinking, more is more. Question for y'all. I remember it was Sneakwa and Olatunde Osunsami, the director of episode 1, season 3, Star Trek Discovery. And we were having this panel with the NAACP Awards. And we were talking about Black people in space. And the question I put out to you all is, if you could create a character who just so happens to be Black, male or female, non-binary, who would that character be and why? You can create that character, and that character will be on Star Trek, sorry. Who would that character be and why?
That's an interesting one. Since I play Star Trek Online, I'm just going to go with my Star Trek Online character, who is a Bajoran. And I think the Bajorans have one of the richest histories in Star Trek. Like with Deep Space Nine, they tried to create a history that is recognizable, but not to the audience. So I think I would be a Black Bajoran who is probably not for Bajor joining the Federation as the Federation wants it to join, in the way that they would want from the people of the planet. So I'd be a badass like Kira, but probably not as prickly, I would say.
Not as prickly. Okay. That's a nice mixture.
I think I would be a Black Trill. I think
Black
Trill, and we've seen a little bit more of them this past season 3. But I think the culture and the history of the Trill and the symbionts is something that we should explore a lot more. And I think I would be a Black Trill historian that was joined, so that I have in myself part of the history of our people, and to be able to share that and pass that knowledge on to the next generation of Trill or join Trill, just as an extension of me myself taking my history, my past, and disseminating that into the world via Twitter or via children or however. I think I would be a Black Trill.
That's amazing,
That's
Grace.
pretty awesome.
I would be a Black Vulcan because I admire how logical they are. I'm a very emotional person. So, and I look at the Vulcans and how they weigh every option with every decision. And I just really respect that. And I would be a plus size Black Vulcan because food is logical.
Come on.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
100% food is logical.
You would be the most
Absolutely.
amazing looking Vulcan though, because your hair is always on point. Like, always on point.
Thank you, guys.
Love that. That's fresh. I really like that.
Thank you.
Plus size Vulcan.
You've never seen that before.
I don't think we've seen a plus size Vulcan. More plus size Vulcans, please.
Yes.
We're long overdue.
Yes.
That needs to change.
More plus size Navarre.
I guess
For sure.
if I were to make a character, because like Tia, I play Star Trek Online too, so I do have a character, but you can't do some things. Captain Sisko to me is like the ideal Black character, and I say that as a Black dad because Sisko is like the Black dad, right?
Mm.
And but I'd like to have him also have an entire family. Let him have a partner. Let him have maybe multiple children. See how characters balance being a partner, being a parent, and that Starfleet image. I think all three that would make for an interesting character to me.
Absolutely. And that would be really effective.
Maybe
I
that's
love
your
that.
maybe that's book in the future.
Maybe that is book in the
Oh, that's a
future.
good point.
These are all
Honestly.
characters that appears on David Star Trek show.
Yes,
One
we have
episode for the
a
Navarre,
did.
one episode for the Trill, one
Yeah.
episode
Right.
for the Shore.
David, that's
all
what you just
coming.
did. You just tried to get us to cast your future show.
I mean,
I think that's exactly what I did. And in that family, of course, we would have to have Grudge in that family.
Absolutely.
Who is
Yes.
there right behind you,
Yes.
which I'm loving. I'll tell you a little story about Grudge, yeah?
oh, okay.
Well, first and foremost, I have to accept being upstaged by a beautiful Mancoon. So I've done that. I was at peace with that. I let it go. Simple. But Grudge the cat, I remember doing this scene. It's in season 3, episode 1, and we're on my ship. And Cleveland Book has allowed Michael Burnham to come on his ship. He's still annoyed that this woman has bumped into his ship, and now he has to go get some dilithium. And in this scene, he's speaking with her, and then he picks up Grudge, and we see Grudge for the first time. I remember picking up Grudge during this take, and I'm speaking to Sonequa, and we're doing this scene. And in the middle of this scene, kid you not, Grudge claws my chest, my stomach. And I kept the scene going. Sonequa noticed in my eyes, they watered a little bit, ever so slightly. It wasn't a single tear, but it was close. And then they called cut, and I very gently put the cat down. And I looked at my costume, and the costume that I was wearing, specifically, it was handmade, and it took ages to make this wonderful leather vest. And it was shredded. And I looked closely, and there was a scratch on my stomach. So we had to pause the scene for like 20 minutes to get this new costume put on. I purposefully didn't tell the medic because I didn't want people to fuss over me and what have you. Managed to get it sorted out. And I think what happened in that moment, Grudge saw into the future and realized that her position could be compromised because of Michael Burnham.
Grudge
So
just
she
looking
held a
out for
grudge.
you. Just has your best interest in mind. Just Grudge just wants to make sure
It was
her
a warning.
dad-
It was a warning. But
Grudge,
now,
do this.
now we're all good. We're all 100 and we're smooth.
Thank you for joining us today, David. We really enjoyed having you on and making us laugh and casting your new Star Trek series. We hope you had a great time as well.
I really did. Thank you for reaching out, and I was really happy to have connected with you all. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
It was great. You realize we're cousins now. Nigerian
Nope.
space cousins.
Exactly. And I know
That's just how it is. We're family. I don't make the rules. That's just the way it is now.
it's all good.
So
and we're
I'm
from the
very
same
much grateful
tribe,
for that.
Yoruba.
Yes.
I could
Yes.
tell.
See, I
looking at your
told you,
last
I
name.
told y'all that's how you spot them.
Yeah,
It's always been They didn't believe me.
This concludes episode 8 of the Black Alert podcast. Before we give our shout out for this episode, we'd like to let all of you know that during the current Trek hiatus, we will be going to a bi-weekly release schedule. We hope that all of you will stick around and as we tackle many of the topics that we've previously discussed. This week, we'd like to shout out to Cody922, who became our 1,000th follower on Twitter. Thank you for listening, and we hope to continue bringing you and the rest of our listeners amazing content. Thank you so much.
I like the way you work it. Discovery, gonna track it out.